Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. This is a really fantastic episode, and I'm so happy to bring you all my friend Seth Green. And I want to remind you all to stick around to the end of the episode where we're going to do our hindsights about this episode. But anyway, back to what we're here for. You guys have no idea what the episode even is yet. Seth Green, or as he was in my phone for many years, Forrest Green, because I was scared that my phone would get hacked and everyone in the world would know Seth Green's phone number. So Seth and I met. It's such an interesting conversation, you guys, because I think we try to figure it out during this interview, how we actually originally met. And I think we settled on that he had me come in to record some Robot Chicken, and that was how we met. And it was one of those things, and we talk about it in the interview, and I'm sure many of you have had the same experience where you meet someone and you just instantly know that like you're going to be friends because you don't have to try. It's just really easy. And Seth and I have always had that kind of a friendship. And he's a really fun guest. And I cannot wait for you to learn a little bit more about him. He's incredibly open in this interview, very vulnerable. And we talk about work and life and growing up in the industry, which I found incredibly interesting, and I think you will too. He's got some really insightful thoughts on life and the industry, and he's just great. So I'm excited for you to listen to this. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to remind you to subscribe to wherever you're getting your podcast so you know when all of our stuff comes out, and stick around for the hindsight afterwards. Without further ado, here's Seth Green.
Katee, we've known each other so long.
We've known each other so long.
It is a long time. So I'm trying to think, what was it, Friday Night Lights you did?
No.
No, that was a whole different crowd of people, but I felt like you were on both of them.
It was the same time.
Is that what it was?
They were happening at the same time.
Why did I think you were on both of those shows? I felt like that would have made sense. No, but you were fucking Starbuck on Battlestar, and it was hands down the coolest. You know, I was obsessed with that show. It's something that Claire and I bonded about before we started dating. We just watched the shit out of it. She had watched the first season, and God, I think it was even the full second season was out. And then we binged it all together so we could catch up for the next season.
Well, I did the Geek and Gamers Girl thing.
Of course you did. Yeah. You were one of the awesome people that all contributed to making that thing feel like a real thing, like get to be a real thing. And then I got to moderate your panel, your Paley Fest panel about the Battlestar. Although I don't know if you were at that.
Is that how we met? Because I don't feel...
No. We met, I feel like we actually met when I brought you in. We brought you in on Robot. You did a Starbuck. We did a Battlestar gag. We got... wasn't Truco in it too?
I did a Battlestar gag.
Yeah,
and then
that was when we met. But we were clearly friends. So we were supposed to be friends. So that got really easy fast. To just be like, oh, we're friends. I'll call you when we're doing stuff.
When we're doing stuff. I'll call you, you call me.
Yeah, this will be the way it works.
That'll be the way it works. But we did. I feel like, and it was one of those weird phone calls, you know, those moments in life where you go, how did that happen? And it just becomes like a piece of your life that added to the trajectory of where you're going. But it was a very significant moment in your life. And I feel like you asking me to come in and do Robot Chicken set in motion 15 years ago, 20 years ago, set in motion where I find myself today, which was without Robot Chicken, without Bitch Puddin', without doing, that was my first foray into voiceover work.
Ooh, that tracks,
I would not have done Clone Wars. And I would not have ended up in Mandalorian.
Wow, that's so fun. You know what it is? I don't know, the showbiz. Showbiz is just like that. And I got into it as a kid and have always watched like the magic happen and people find each other and then you collaborate on something that was bigger than you expected. But like being in this business my whole life, I've realized how much you have the opportunity to live either version of the story, right? Like, as a kid, I worked a lot and got exposed to all kinds of adult scenarios. But my priority was working, being an actor, being part of this, learning how to be great at it, learning how to get jobs, figuring out how to make movies and stuff like that. So I didn't care about being famous or any of that stuff. And I saw all of the teenagers, the adults, the elderly. I saw everybody that had been in this business 100 years before me. And I paid attention to what people's paths were and what seemed to be an inciting incident for their downfall, or what was the catalyst for their resurgence, or anything like that. And I sort of understood that that's just the name of the game. Like, nobody gets anything unless they work really, really hard. If you're fucking around doing drugs, showing up late, nobody is going to hire you. If you don't look the same way because you're up too late, can't perform, can't go the 12 to 17 hours that you got to go, can't do the thing when they call action. Like, if you can't hang from the wire, convincingly do this scene while the fans are blowing, the wind machine is going, the rain is in your face, there's a squib on your chest, and you got to say the fucking line the right way the one time we get the shot at it. If you can't handle that, don't do this.
Yeah, it's true though, but
Right,
I don't
it
think
is.
people realize that.
Well, because everybody gets addicted to a different part of it, right? Like, some people just love the way it feels to perform. I do. I love the way it feels to express something so sincerely that you could film it, somebody else will feel it. That's my favorite magic trick. That's what I think I was born to do. That's what I'm here to do. Like, that's my gift, is I can make people feel that thing. But how you achieve that, what medium, stage or voiceover, or on camera, in person, like whatever kind of storytelling you do, I think that's individual. Where people get fouled up is thinking that everything has equanimity. Like, they're all completely different things and really get handled that way. But everybody imagines, we've consolidated the concept of being successful into a couple of benchmarks.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. You know, I sort of compile my list of the people I want to talk to in my life. And then I sort of ask myself why I want to talk to this person. Like, I've always been intrigued by your career and the way that you have number one, been doing this as long as you have. You're normal, but which is relatively normal. I mean, normal is a word.
Dig into the normal. You mean that I'm not
I mean
running out
that
in the street?
You aren't, like
I'm
you
not
said,
flailing
you're
around.
not addicted to drugs.
Right.
You're not.
I do like weed. I'm definitely gonna.
Listen,
I think I'll like. It's
you
cool
should
if I
light
like
up.
this, right? Everybody will think.
It's legal in
I'm
every
not Wiz
state.
Khalifa
No.
or anything.
Even if you were.
But wait, is it Robbie, your producer? He was. This is great. Dax called me. We were talking about it because he knows I like to smoke weed, but it's also not a thing. I'm like the most frighteningly driven and high-focused person. Like, I work. I put in the work.
You do put in the work. It's one of the things I admire about you.
Well, thank you. I love it. I actually love it. I find myself satisfied by like you know that as a performer, you hit a particular technical thing just right. It's like putting a puzzle together or sliding in the last piece of Tetris.
There is a moment when you know you got it right. That sweet spot.
Yeah, you're doing all this choreography, the fighting, the gunplay, the like aerial shit. When you get that just right, it feels good.
There's nothing like it.
I aim for that all the time. So being in that dangerously constant state of ready, it kept me up at night for years and years and years until I discovered
weed.
Yeah.
When did you discover weed?
Well, it's funny because I've talked about this a lot. I tried psychedelics and other mental exploratory things really intentionally.
Microdosing or like high levels of?
Oh, no. When I was like 16, I got really into acid, but acid on the weekends and calculated in a safe environment because I had to do those auditions.
Because you still had to do your job. Listen,
Dad
I got
had
into
to pay
drugs
those bills,
too,
kid, right?
You know, I found myself in drugs as well, but it was always contained. There was one time in my life where it started to get a little out of control.
What was your drug of choice? If that's not too personal.
No, it's not. I found myself getting into cocaine a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Because you love, God.
You know
There's
what?
a thing that cocaine gives you, which is the impression of elite sophistication and excellence of skill. Like cocaine fills you with the sensation that you're like, oh, fuck, I always knew I was awesome, but I didn't quite realize how awesome I truly am.
I think for me, for a person who with undiagnosed ADHD, I was very good at being a wallflower. But you found weed, which...
Well, you know, at least at that point, it was, it's funny because I was, God, from the time I was like 13, 14, just chronic insomnia. Just to the point where I could be up all night. I could be up for,
Just the
my
thinking?
my brain's so busy.
Yeah.
Brain's busy.
My husband doesn't sleep.
I figured it out. You know, I got, I mean, it's a lot. It's meditating. It's creating like a new relationship with that you that is in your head that says good shit and bad shit. You know, that thing, what's his name? Bill Hader had a great analogy that like all the voices, all the thing that tells you you suck, you're an idiot, you're worthless, nobody likes you, you're wasting your time, all that stuff. It's just like a voice. It's not real. It's not a fact. And it's just like a thing sitting on your shoulder being like, you suck. You're the worst. And you can just say, hey, shh. I'm not going to, I hear you. I get that you're there, but I'm not going to listen to that. But
don't give it power.
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to that right now because that's just your opinion.
Yeah.
There's that other side of it that I love, which is that the you inside you is the one that's talking to you. Like if you liked Westwood, I don't know if you watched Westwood.
I did.
Or Westworld.
I've
been in LA
Westwood.
too long. Westworld.
The fact that we both.
Yeah,
I
knew
what you're talking about.
Yeah. That show was so amazing because it really talked about what is consciousness, right? And the allegory is this artificial intelligence that makes self-discovery because of the maze that they're all given. And what's at the center of the maze? You hear through a reverie was the way that they described your memories of something that draws you deeper into yourself, into your dreams, into something that doesn't feel like waking life, but is as tangible as real experience. And when you get to the center of the maze, you realize that the one who was guiding you towards self-discovery, the one who was encouraging you, pushing you, the voice inside your head that said, you can do it, that's you. That's you too. And so you as the you that you get this private relationship with, however you decide to represent that. Some people get into organized theology about it. This is the voice of God. This is the interaction of saints. Like whatever you ascribe that to, it's just important to know that that voice, that consciousness, it doesn't want to hurt you. That's you in there, and it doesn't want to hurt you, right?
Do you think that that is the difference between people who find success? And by success, I don't necessarily mean monetary success. I mean success at feeling fulfilled in their lives, and then the people that get overwhelmed by the other.
Yeah, it is a very easy thing to forget to love yourself, right? And everybody talks about, I had to learn to love myself. I had to learn how to forgive myself. I had to figure out that I was worth love, even though all of my childhood influences made me feel like I wasn't.
I said it to you before we walked in the door, that I said that I had to do a lot of work on myself and I had to figure out that I was enough. And
yeah. You know what's challenging for me? I left the house when I was 16 years old. Like I had my own apartment before I turned 17. And also I was doing deep mental investigation in earnest, trying to be a better performer. Isn't that what's funny? I was trying to have like all kinds of world experiences. And I had read really early on that even the government had experimented with psychedelics in an effort to become better at war. They fucked around with remote viewing with like all straight up psychic shit. They were like, it appears that the psilocybin unlocks the deeply contained skill set within emotion to nearly communicate telepathically.
They're literally like the gamers in The Last of Us, like controlling the psilocybin.
Interesting. I haven't watched The Last of Us. Spoiler alert. But
I just ruined it for you.
Nick Offerman, isn't that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but it's Pedro, right? And the
It's
girl
Pedro.
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
God, don't you love him? It's so funny. I love the Fantastic Four so much. Not to get completely off topic, but I love the Fantastic Four so much. The first comic that I really read, Spider-Man's my first hero, but the Fantastic Four is the first comic. So I've been waiting for a great movie version of this. I just love it. You know they're going to do it right the same way they did Spider-Man, right? Which is really nice. And I'm waiting for this announcement. And I don't know if it could have been anybody. And then they say, oh, yeah, Pedro Pascal is playing Reed Richards. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, God, that's going to be great, isn't it?
You do. As soon as you hear Pedro's name associated with something, you go,
that's going to be good.
Oh, he's gonna do it.
Have you seen the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
No,
it's on my list. The thing he did with Nick Cage.
With Nick Cage.
Oh, my God, Katee.
I hear that it's phenomenal.
It's like flawlessly executed.
Okay.
Flawlessly executed.
Okay.
Yeah, so good.
Watch me go home and watch it tonight.
You should. Pedro's so good at it. God damn, he's funny in it.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's very good.
So super excited about Reed Richards. The whole point of that we were talking about just me.
At your age, trying to find yourself.
And that was what it was. I had left the house and I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to figure this out. Who am I? What am I doing here? And I had a buddy, kid from Vancouver, who was like, let's eat some acid. And I was like, you know what?
That sounds like a good idea.
I'd read up on it. I'd done like a book report about the government secret testing and
oh my God.
Whatever the project, I forget what they called it.
I love the fact that you're the 16-year-old that's like, you know what would make this book report real good? Trying the acid.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I think I should do is try this.
Try the acid.
But it's what I had read Ken Kesey and the electric Kool-Aid acid test. I've been reading up about the Merry Pranksters of the 60s, saw shit like Easy Rider and Hair. You know, and I saw that stuff young enough to be like, what are these people talking about? So, and then, you know, by the time I'm 17 and trying these things, then I'm starting to read everybody from Hemingway and Bukowski to like Bill Burroughs and Kerouac, like getting into the literature, the artistic creation that came from these kinds of psychedelics. Like what artistic gateway got opened for any of these mad creators from any of these things? And maybe I could get in on some of that. Not as a base.
Touch on it a little bit.
Yeah,
get some brilliance.
I'm not trying to rewrite my operating system, but I was interested in getting some new data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what was it though? Because when I started this and I said that you're one of the people that I know that have been in this industry for so long and you're normal, what I mean by that is that you haven't developed any habits, anything that is normally associated with people in this industry that are destructive. And you have a loving home life and you are stable in that love.
Yeah.
And I find that you are very grounded in who you are and what your purpose is. That's what I mean by normal.
Yeah. Well, but you know, that's the end of a 50-year journey of self-discovery. Right. And each of those moments have been finding solutions to those questions. I just did them a little bit earlier than most people do because I was in it earlier. Like I started working professionally when I was 7.
You did, but how did that happen? To professionally start working when you're 7?
Because I was so fucking driven. I didn't sleep at night. I just wanted to like be an actor.
But how is that? What was the avenue?
Why?
Like,
yeah,
were your parents? Did your parents have an in?
Sort of. My godfather's brother did radio in Philadelphia, and he knew about an on-camera training school in Philadelphia called Weiss Barron. And I had a guy named Rodney Robb, who is in his 90s now, teach me how to do commercials. Like they had a camera set up, and you'd come in, you'd learn copy, or you'd have the cue sheet. They taught you how to slate.
Wow.
They're just like, this is how you do it. You're going to walk in the room. There's going to be people there. They're going to have a camera. They're going to show you the thing. You probably have already been able to study the sides. These are called sides.
Yeah.
You know, you're 7 years old. You're like, all right, I got it.
Yeah.
And by that point, I'd already been on stage twice and was like, yeah, this is what I do. Like, that's as simple as I know how to explain
Were
it.
you driven to... Because I firmly remember the moment that I decided I wanted to be an actor.
Ooh, let's hear it.
And it was on the E.T. ride.
Oh, yeah. How old were you?
God. 8?
How many people
9?
know this, right? At Universal, there used to be the greatest thing, an E.T. ride. You could even like get on the bike.
You could get on the bike.
They take a picture of you on the green screen with the
It was
bike.
amazing.
That's the fucking best.
And I remember getting goosebumps. And I remember thinking to myself, God, I want want to give people goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
I want that. I want to be able to do this for people because I was aware of how intoxicating that was.
Felt so good.
It felt so good.
You wanted to share it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So what was it about performing the process that like intoxicated you at 7?
You know, my parents, my mom was the head of an art program at a summer camp. And I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 and got to hang out all the teenagers that were, you know, the counselors in training or like the older bunks. And looking back, these like 13 to 15 years old.
Yeah.
All these kids, but I was like 5, so they just seemed like
God's
the oldest, most sophisticated version of a kid. I was like, oh, fuck, look at these guys, so much freedom. They do anything they wanted. Plus, even at a young age, I'll admit, I found all those girls incredibly attractive.
Of course.
So attractive.
Sexuality drives so many people to want to do what they want to do.
There was this great thing. My mom would like ask any of these teenage girls to babysit me, and they would just like bring me into their bunk, and I'd be like sitting there reading Archie comics or some shit, 5 years old, and they just get changed in front of me. And one of them was even like, you with the kid, and I was like just reading the book, the comic with my eyes, like trying to glue my eyes, trying not to look interested. Just like, look at the comic, kid. Just don't fuck up. Don't you fuck this up, dude. And the girl, she looks at me. I'm not even paying attention. She goes, he doesn't care. And then they just went back to changing their clothes.
I knew when I did it.
Oh, God, it's the greatest thing ever. And I told you what, I'll tell you what, Katee, they just did it all the time. All the time. They're like, all right, let's go swimming.
The good
just
old
play
days.
it cool, man. Just play it cool. And you will witness some amazing things. Anyway, so the kids put on a talent show towards the end of the whatever. And they asked me to participate. They were going to do, it was boys, they were the funny nerds. And they said, I'm going to do this thing. It's sort of like a Star Trek. What do you play the captain? We'll all be the crew, and we'll do these interstitials for the talent show. We'll pretend we're traveling around to these exotic planets, and everywhere we stop, they're going to show us their best performance. And I was like, oh, I love it. I love it. And so, you know, we rehearsed this shit. I'm like 5.
You're like 5.
Yeah. I got my costume on. We made the costumes.
Oh
got a little ray gun.
I love it.
Opens up. And here's the thing. Now, I knew enough about Star Trek to know the line, beam me up, Scotty. They had decided, and I didn't even realize this until I was much older, but that the one guy didn't want to do the Scottish accent. He wanted to do the Russian accent. So my first line is, beam us up, Chekhov. We got a hostile environment here. And the lights go on. We're like, pow, pow, pow with the guns, me and the guy right next to me. And I go, beam us up. And I go straight up on the line. And I'm panicking.
Oh, no.
Felt like an eternity. And the guy next to me, who now I realize was like 13, he looks at me and he goes, Chekhov. And I go, beam us up, Chekhov. We're in the middle of a hostile environment. And they like do the sound effect. We get in the seats and I was like, we're going to be fine. The kid even looks at me and is like, you got it.
You're going to be fine.
You got it.
Yeah.
Just with his eyes. It's like, you got it. So we sit down and go through the whole riff. They tee me up every time we're going to land on a planet. I go, oh, this is Unit D. And it appears that they've got the hokey pokey for us. Like, what? I killed it. I killed it. And even improv some shit.
Wow.
Improv with this other kid who now I realize was a child. But he made me feel so cool.
Yeah.
And then everybody took their bow at the end, and I was like, this is fun, man. I think I love this. And then my mom went to work at another camp, and the kids were putting on a play, and it was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And now I'm like 6, and I'm like, hey, get me in this show.
Yeah, now you're like, I can do this.
Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. We're doing the show. And I go, you're a good man, Charlie Brown. You got a Snoopy. You need a Woodstock. Come on. I don't even need lines, man. Let me do some space work. I got this shit. So serious about it. And they were like, no, fuck off entirely. And so I didn't get to be in that play. And the next term, which was immediately to follow, like another 4-week term, they put on Hello, Dolly. So I'm up their ass. Do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck. All right. I'll give you one line at the end of the show. And I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. rehearse, costumes, the makeup, curtain, the lights, I don't know. The crowd coming in all expectant. It's like noisy, and then it goes quiet. And then we just start making everybody feel this fucking thing. I don't know. It was like everything about me was in line. And then it's my moment. And I'm like, here we go. I get out early to my cue. I'm watching the scan the crowd. I make sure I've got a good line of sight. As I come up these stairs, I know where my light is. Go straight up and I go, she's here. She's here. Dolly is here. And then they pull the fucking curtain and Dolly entrance. And everybody starts singing, Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
It's the review that ends the show. We all take the bow. And everyone is like, you can see it on their faces. They felt something.
Yeah.
They felt something. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what I do. This is what I do. I don't know what shape this is. Whatever shape this takes, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
So then it was like, all right, how do I do this?
Yeah. And then you just became the most driven 6-year-old kid in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it felt, I didn't have any obstructions that made me feel like it wasn't possible. It seemed matter of fact for me that this is what I'm supposed to do. If I just figure out how to do it well, then I'll get to do it.
How do you think that you navigated an industry that is responsible for a lot of people's self-destruction?
Totally. I
from
have
such
a
young age.
Yeah, I had a lot of pluses. I wasn't pretty. You know what I'm saying? There's a different thing that happens to all these pretty kids, boys and girls. It's a whole different thing. I didn't have to contend with that. It's just something fucked up. Like, there's something fucked up about people, human beings. It's throughout time that worship kids, you know, that like place an unreasonable amount of expectation, pressure, responsibility, idolatry. Like, people are, you know, and it's that lack of therapy. It's that lack of self-realization. People are so searching for an answer, something to fill the things that make up the human struggle, the sense of loneliness, the lack of understanding, the desperation to share love. Like, that's the most basic shit. It is all over the world. We just have different cultural overlays to define it. And so a lot of that gets projected at beautiful kids. And you can look at it from as far back as Versailles, if not Egypt. Like, kids put in these unreasonable positions of authority and power. And it's usually the prettiest ones.
Yeah.
So, you know, nobody looked at me like that. I'm weird as fuck. I had a lot of red hair. My teeth were all jacked. I had an absurd vocabulary by the time I was 7. Man, when I hit this town, there was an archetype I could easily fill, and it was not being well filled. So I got in there, and I was the kid you want shilling whatever fruit drink is supposed to appeal to the misfits.
You know what's funny is that I had a similar trajectory in the sense that when I first moved here, they really wanted me to be that like
quirky best friend.
Yeah, because I wasn't, because there were these beautiful girls that I was never quite enough for. And so I filled a side spot that protected me from a lot of the shit that young girls went through in this industry.
Absolutely.
I was never sexually harassed. I was never put in a position where I felt like I needed to defend myself. Now, I did create a sort of like persona to protect myself.
That's what I heard the most, right? So I was adjacent to a lot of kids that got abused, a lot of kids that caught drugs, a lot of kids that died. I was right up in there and never quite in the same photograph. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
I was at a lot of these places.
Yeah.
I knew all the same, like that was the most fucked up thing when Feldman came out, Corey Feldman came out a couple years ago and was like, it's this guy. It was this guy, and this guy. I was like, shit, I knew those guys.
You were around it all.
I was like one of those guys. I spent 4 weeks on that guy's sofa. Wow. And then I was thinking like, did that guy ever try to fuck me? I don't remember that. Like, I do remember one conversation. I did remember a conversation that we had driving home one night where he asked me if I was hooking up. And by that time I was 14 and I was hooking up. I'm pretty proud of it. Like I felt like accomplished. I was 14. I had like 17-year-old girls. And it was very.
But they were of your age range. You were hooking up.
So this guy, I remember him saying something about like, well, have you gotten a blowjob yet? And I was like, oh, no, that's a real thing. I thought that was just in porno. What? And he's like, yeah, no, your girls will do it. And I was like, oh my God, what? And then that became my mission. But in that moment, he also said, blowjob from a guy feels the same as from a girl.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I'm just not into guys though. And he was like, sure, because the truth is, mouth is a mouth. And even in that moment, I was like, nah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think back on that, and that's probably the difference. It's probably as simple as that I was willing to say no.
No.
Yeah. And then I'm not able to be a victim, right? So
no, they can't groom you at that point or whatever, or be a victim, whatever the word is.
Whatever it is, yeah. And I look back on all that and I just hate it. Like a couple of these guys, man, it's always the kids that died.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know a lot of kids that died. And it's just like a fact. It's just like a fact. It made me so conscious. God, like especially when I started Buffy. It's made me conscious. I know all these dynamics. I've seen all these casts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. From Different Strokes to 90210. Like, I'm in that shit. I've seen all these casts. How slippery. How much you need support.
Yeah.
How desperately you need your parents.
Your parent.
Or some kind of parent figure.
I had a lot of surrogate. Someone who has your best interest.
I had a lot of surrogate parents. My wife and I talk about being raised by wolves. Like literally we both ran away to join the circus in one way or another. Because we're such carny people that real life couldn't make us happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is the thing, right? During Battlestar, there was a cult. And there were a lot of people from Battlestar that ended up around in this thing.
Was that the NXIVM thing? Oh, isn't that fucking wild?
And he said, you had to have been approached. And I said, yeah, I did, but I dismissed it. And I told him it sounded insane to me. Because I said, no, I don't need this in my life. For whatever reason, at 22, you were much younger and it was a very different sort of circumstance, but I didn't feel like there was something missing that I needed to fill at that point with something that seemed insane to me. Like people that were trying to find themselves. Even if the myself that I had found, quote unquote, was a projection of who I thought I was supposed to be. It allowed me to not fall victim to that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. My parents made me go to religious Sunday school until I was like 13 years old. And then I had to do 2 years of what was called confirmation.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm actually really happy because the teachers that I had both those years put such an emphasis on the potential safe space of self-discovery, right? And that you didn't have to compare yourself to anybody, that everybody is asking these same questions, and that cults are things that prey on that. The idea of feeling misunderstood, feeling alone, feeling like you don't know how to love and you don't know how to be loved. That's all stuff you just haven't learned yet. And that's still ahead of you. And it's okay. It's okay to not know those answers. And you're going to get out there and a lot of people are going to tell you that they have the answer. And none of them do. You're the only one that can find those answers. You can use any one of these tools, any one of these methods, but it's you. And I remember just coming out to LA and thinking like, oh shit, cults are going to be coming at me from every angle. Let me just keep my eye up. But I'm also super curious and I love to read. So anytime any theological organization was like, yo, read my book, I was like, all right. And they're like, come in, chat my people up. I was like, cool. And then I would ask whatever questions I had, and we usually just agreed to disagree. Mine's easy. I'm like, nah, I don't like any organization. Just doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I like to group pray, group meditate. That can be really powerful.
There's power in group meditation.
So powerful.
Oh, my
Anything
God.
you do in a group is powerful.
It's
That's
powerful.
the thing. That's why it's like
Well,
so.
that's the intoxication of.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Just want to be. That's that. Everybody loves chanting. I realize, you know, whether you're at a rock concert or a political rally, everybody just likes knowing the words.
It's true.
It is true.
Because we all crave.
Just want to fit
Group.
in. You
We just want to fit in.
Come on, man. Don't notice me.
We do. Everyone wants to belong to something.
Yeah.
Because it gives us someone to hold hands with as we walk through this craziness. It gives you belonging and purpose.
Yeah. Validation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find that's the dangerous thing is like disagreement's been weaponized in such a way that people aren't as willing to have a conversation that ends with, well, we just believe
Disagree.
in different things and that's all right. I don't have to kill you about it.
Yeah. I don't know when, you know, I've always been of the mindset that I can always find something to have a beer with anyone about.
Yeah.
I can sit down, have a beer, and find common ground.
Even if it's sobriety.
Even if it's sobriety. You know what? Even if it's anything, you can find that thing that allows you to appreciate a person for who they are, but disagree on pretty much everything. And that's okay, because there's a respect there, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's an implied requirement of respect.
Yeah.
Like there's sort of a agreement between the two that you at least acknowledge that this is a person same as you with the
Like
same amount of feelings.
Bleeds red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually the base requirement. And I feel like we've lost a bit of that presumption.
We've lost that.
Because the conversation is not working towards common ground, it's actively working against it, right? The conversation is not about where we agree. It's about how aggressively and comedically we can tell each other we disagree.
Well, and wholeheartedly believe that the purpose of the conversation is to convince the other person that they're wrong. Because if you can't convince them that they're wrong, then everything that you believe could be wrong.
Ooh, I do think a lot of people get stuck in that, right? Like if you spend too long on the wrong track, not being able to admit that you fucked up.
Yes.
And just like keep going instead of figuring out a way to cut the losses, man. A lot of people get stuck on that, don't they?
They do.
I feel like a know-it-all. And the truth is I don't know any of it. I'm still figuring out brand new shit.
My success, what I thought I wanted, all changed the moment I had a child.
I talk about that all the time, but not necessarily relative to having a kid. It's that to really sustain, to really be successful in this business, you have to clearly define what your success parameters are. Like what to you constitutes success? Otherwise, you're trying to fill a hole that can't possibly be filled. So if success to Robin, for example, is working when he works and making the money that he makes, which is more than enough to do what he wants to do, that is his success.
Yeah.
I've known people that can't stop with enough. Like they're they can't see beyond someone who has more than them, someone who's achieved a different thing than them. I had to get over that shit early because it was very clear from a young age, especially when I had to completely rejigger my outward-facing personality to get new jobs, right? There was a point, I was a little kid actor, and so you expected to play a very particular thing. And especially when I got notoriety for working in certain roles, everybody had an expectation of that. And I just didn't look like that anymore. So I had to figure out what I was. And in keeping with the notion of wanting to be a character actor, I just leaned into being the weird guy.
Yeah.
I leaned into being the best friend. I leaned into being the bad influence or the guy who was like, hey, you should put this in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like I leaned into it and it really worked for me. I bleached my hair white. I got fucking weird. I started wearing like purple sunglasses and hammer pants.
You did get weird.
You know
but
how
you
weird
and
I got.
you and Macaulay like at the same time. Like I feel like you and Macaulay.
Couple years apart. Me and Mac were definitely playing a similar game.
But I feel
that's
like
why we
you
love
did.
each
I
other.
feel like
we like real game recognized game. Like we both.
I feel like you did. But I feel like that was a thing. Like, and how smart of you to recognize that like, you know.
Well, it's just different quest, right? Like a lot of kids. And I don't know what I would have done if social media was a thing when I was growing up the way it was for somebody like Bieber. Like you look at the way Bieber has had so many bullshit claims leveled against him, you know, and some that were warranted, but every bit of his mistakes have had to be in public.
Yeah.
And that's an unwinnable situation.
Well, we even talked about the drug use that we both flirted with.
Uh,
We were allowed to make mistakes and have them not haunt us for the rest of our lives.
Totally. I almost, I'm so honest. I didn't know that when you're filling out the bond paperwork for the independent movie that they get like a health certification. And these are literally like someone comes and checks your pulse. But on the form, like, have you ever taken any hallucinogenic drugs? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
So I had to
you guys, for people at home, you lie on this shit because they won't.
They don't actually care.
They
but
don't
it's
care,
also
but it's
something
how you
that you
get bonded.
did years ago. You're not talking about it being an addict.
No.
I had to pee in a cup for the duration of the movie.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
At 15.
Wow. Wow.
Or I guess I was 16 at that point. Yeah.
So you hear stories, for people at home, you hear stories about how actors are uninsurable. It's because for whatever reason, you know, whether it be their habits or their personality or, you know.
You can't predict that they're going to show up for work every day. You don't know that you're going to make your days every day. And that's the money, that's the whole money for the schedule.
The movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Robert Downey Jr. couldn't work for a while.
He literally talked about it at the Oscars.
Yeah, he's the best. God damn, he's the best. You know, it helps that he's such a talent. Like, if he wasn't any good, nobody would have been rooting for him to come back. But he is one of the best we've got. Just one of the best we've got.
I remember him having a conversation at some point, and I don't remember where this interview was, but when he got sober, he questioned whether or not his talent was attached to his drug use.
Of course, that's every addict creator. Yeah, all the musicians that got sober from drugs or alcohol, they struggled with writing, struggled with playing, because it's like, I thought, you really make this, that's how beguiling all of those substances are. They really convince you that you need them.
Well, you have to relearn how to do things.
Yeah.
You know?
And how humbling, right? Like, nobody likes that. The work's so hard anyway. It's so hard anyway.
It's super hard. It's super hard. It really is. Keeping your emotions and your vulnerability so readily available is not usually associated with adults.
Or not, healthy, functioning adults. So you need to learn a unique type of compartmentalization. Like, that's how I realized why I was such a healthy, why my 30s were so healthy. I did tons of therapy, a whole bunch of psychedelic self-investigation, and was so good at my focus as a performer became so sharp that I could compartmentalize anything else in favor of being present in a moment, which is wild. And I was healthy. I felt really healthy about it.
Well, I think as actors, as performers, because, you talk about that moment of being on the wires and being in the rain and being able to perform and being able to deliver as, at the drop of a hat. I think that we are very good at compartmentalizing because you have to. You have to
go out on stage
compartmentalize.
and keep it going while somebody's having a heart attack.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, that guy in the audience is dying. Well, I'm not going to forget this monologue. This is my fucking moment.
You have to deliver that monologue because the other, 680 people in the audience came for a performance.
Right. Well, and also, there's medical professionals that somebody's yelling, doctor, we need a crash kit. Is there an AED? You're just like, oh my God. But forsooth my mother, if not she were. Is that guy cool? All right. Anyway, so the dagger is just trying to
Is that guy cool?
keep your fucking shit together. You better keep your shit together. That's the job, right?
It is the job. Yep. It is the job to show up and put aside everything that you've been going through all day long, anything that could come up throughout the day, and handle it after work.
I think the success of personalities in the marketplace, be they reality stars or internet influencers, has altered the expectations of what you need to contribute to gain celebrity or financial security. And also a lot of collectible shit that people didn't take seriously the same way that nobody took the original Star Wars shit seriously became absurdly collectible. And you see people paying $2 million for a Pokemon card. And so a lot of these kids see an avenue to out-earn their parents before they're even out of their parents' house.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just different.
It is different.
Kids don't come in here thinking that you got to learn how to hang on a wire. Like when I was growing up, you had to learn how to dance, know how to sing, get some basic stage fight training.
Master it all.
Yeah, master it all. And then you fucking better be able to do ADR.
Yes.
Like I don't need to hire some sound-alike.
I just went to go do ADR the other day. And the guy, when I left, he goes, "It's obvious you really enjoy this process." And I went, "Man, this is part of it." I look at ADR like another opportunity to come in and make my performance better.
Yeah, it better be.
You get to reinvent certain scenes again if you want to.
Yeah.
And you can do that in ADR, but
or
kids
if they
these
need
days
to because of the edit.
Don't get it.
You said it. Oh my God, Katee, you said kids these days.
I did.
Isn't it the best though? I kind of love it. See, that's the thing. That's the best part about turning 50 is that I am that older guy now. Like that's really fun. I remember being a kid on sets and meeting the older people and the people who'd been in it forever and the people who had done stuff that I had seen and whether they were cool or not, whether they were okay or not, right? And I delight in getting to be the older person and work with kids. And I get to, whatever, if they have a compliment for me, I just like shake it off the way that John fucking Cleese shook off the compliments I had to give him when we were working together and then just did scenes with me like a fucking, I just love him so much.
John Cleese is coming to Portland.
Oh my God, I love him so much. It's insane. Like he, as a writer, as a performer, as a comedian, as an actor, God, I just love him so much. And it's incalculable all the ways he's influenced me in my decision-making, not just in my performances, but like in my career. And so I got to make a movie with him and I was like, oh, no, I just want to be cool. Let me just be cool. We'd already shot 2 scenes together before he was getting like something put together in makeup, started a new day getting makeup together. He's telling some funny story. It's about Python or something insane. Like for Brian, I couldn't even take it as I just like listened basically to stories.
I am a fly on the wall.
It was quite silly. And I just like sat chilled away for the whole thing. At the end of the story, I go, God, John, I feel like I gotta just tell you, you really are one of the most significant influences that I've had over my life and career. And I can't even believe I've just said that out loud. I'm gonna go. And I walked the fuck out. I just left. Complimented, and I was like, oh no. And then I just left. And
what was it about the compliment?
I just felt like it's too much. He didn't need that. When you come to work with somebody, you're there on purpose, right? So you've been hired to do the same job that they're hired to do. And the expectation is that you can compartmentalize any of this bullshit about like, oh my God, I had your fucking poster in my room. Like, put that away and do your best job. You better meet that person in this scene when they call action and not have them thinking you had their fucking poster on the wall and you don't know how to handle this. You know what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, but I'm also so happy as your friend that you had that moment.
Well, so let me go on because it went even better. I'm outside. There's like a picnic area. It's like a veterans building in Toronto or wherever we were. Massive campus. And I'm out there with a bunch of extras and I guess we're kicking a soccer ball around, just trying to kill time. John comes out, and he's in like suit pants, suspenders, a tie, full button-up shirt. He's still got the tissues.
The tissue from when they're doing his makeup.
Collar, so his makeup doesn't stain because he wanted to be extra tan. And he just comes down the stairs and puts his hands up like that. And I kicked him the ball, and he kicked it back to us. And then we just fucking kicked the ball around for the next 20 minutes until they called us. And neither one of us talked about that compliment ever again. We went and shot a scene together, and I gave him everything I got, and he gave me the same. And I was like, wow, it's like one of the most special things. I want to be like that. I want to be that cool about it. I want to be able to make the other actors know that it doesn't matter if you have my poster. We're doing the scene together. This is the chance we get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think that in that moment, I think you're allowed to, in my humble opinion, I think that you are allowed to tell someone if they had an impact on your life. But at the same time, he also knew that he gave himself to you, not only in the scene, but outside of the scene.
Yeah.
Because that's the type of person he was.
He's the best. God love him. I got to have the same thing with Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the greatest. It's just the greatest. I love him so much. Love him so much.
What a wonderful talent.
He's the best. He's the best.
Yeah.
You know, and a really good example, because I got to watch his roller coaster before we ever worked together. And I heard all the stories of every version of his sobriety or struggles with addiction, his depression, every bit of it. And I got this incredible thing. I got to make this movie with him and saw him for years after that. And I feel there was one time, and it was like well into knowing him. I think we were doing a press junket.
What movie did you do with him?
We got this very silly Disney movie called Old Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
It's him
Tim
and Travolta.
Allen.
No, they did Wild Hogs.
Oh, Wild Hogs.
Just the same director. So
Yes.
it was very confusing.
Okay.
They completely syllabically comparable. And even John was like, hey, we're only doing 2-word titles from now on. It's so stupid. So silly. But I got brought in there as a very specific type of character. And so I got to foil both of these guys. I got to be their version of a straight man, but also had to catch whatever they were pitching. And so, oh God, the greatest, this is one of the greatest moments I've ever had. I show up on set the first day, and I'm already like in my suit. I'm trying to feel for the space. And Robin comes in and he goes, Mr. Robot Chicken. And I was like, oh my God. And he hugged me. We hugged. And I said, oh my God, you like our show? And he goes, I love your show. And I'm like, I'm about to swag you the fuck out.
Oh
like,
my God.
You're about to get 10 DVDs and a whole bunch of t-shirts. What do you wear, a medium?
The idea that Robin Williams could have had a t-shirt that said "Blam Cunt" on it.
Come on. You know it. You know that shit. That's the thing we're working on. I've still been trying to get us a Funko. Funko's really challenging, and I'm not quite sure why, but if we could make one, who would it be? And both Matt and I think it's Bitch Pudding. Like we think she travels the best as far as like a rep for the show. And for people that would want any iconography from the show, it's not typical. They want the nerd or the humping robot or even the scientist to the chicken, right? Like Bitch Pudding has traveled the farthest. And I say it at every turn. She's a terrible person.
She's terrible.
She's not a role model, guys.
No.
She's not a piece. She's like, that's like making 50 Cent your role model. Like
he's
going to teach you how to bump them 380s and load up those hollows, right?
Yeah.
That's not,
no.
He's not going to buy your mom flowers. Like,
she is not a doll
actually,
you buy for your
what?
child.
Curtis might buy flowers
He
for your
probably
mom.
would.
He's kind of cool like that.
I think he might, actually.
But Bitch Pudding doesn't feel like the role model that you want to.
No, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that I would be like, hey, she's right up there with like Punky Brewster. Does anyone even know who Punky Brewster is anymore?
Yeah, they had a revival on Peacock.
Did they really?
I did an episode of it. Soleil and I have known each other since she's 13.
13.
13 years old. And I joked because we went out on a date on the show. I played a blind date, and I'm terrible. I'm like just an awful blind date. I take her to an escape room and it's a Harry Potter type escape room and I'm so into it. So into it. She was like, I thought we could just make out. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to make out like a bandit. I've got the wand of the wizard. It's great. It's so great. She leaves me. Anyway, it's very funny.
You were talking about Robin Williams, though, and your experience with Robin.
And there was a moment, it was like late in the day. I think we were doing the press junket or something. And he went to have lunch in his room. And he was like, you want to come have lunch in my room? Because you're in a hotel, they set you up in the room. It's like, yeah, I do. We're just hanging out there, eating food, talking whatever. And I can't even remember how it came up, but he had said something about like this being fun or like enjoying the process. And I said, oh God, Robin, you're literally my favorite. And he was just like, oh, thanks, or whatever. Yeah, I didn't make it weird.
No.
But I told him. Yeah, he's so cool like that. Sarah got to work with him too. Sarah Gellar did that show, the CBS show.
Yeah.
And it was on the same lot where we were doing Dads. So I got the privilege of bringing Peter Riegert and Martin Mull over to visit Robin. And they all fucking love each other. So like watching Martin and Robin zing each other was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
There are moments in this industry where you find yourself in a situation like that, where no one else in the entire world is experiencing that moment in just that way.
Right? You start to feel
so
like,
special.
I'm not worthy, right? I'm not worthy. How am I the one having this? You have to, what I do, I'll sort of detach in a way, in the same way I've had to detach from my name. Because my name has a totally different burden outside of my everyday life. It's like an avatar for me, but it no longer describes me.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. How do you combat something like that then?
I just don't care. You know what I mean? I like don't put a lot of weight on that. It doesn't detract from the experience that I'm getting to have. There's certain things, it's sort of like, you know how to pop a beer bottle with a lighter?
I know the motion. I've never successfully been able to do it, no.
I'm about to tell you what nobody tells you and what is apparently a closely guarded secret to maintain the illusion of effortless cool that comes with popping a bottle with a lighter. It hurts your finger. It hurts your finger.
Yeah, because it scratches, right?
No, because it's like putting all of your
pressure.
Finger becomes the fulcrum by which this projectile is launched.
Yeah.
It's well fitted. You have to create the space, and then the motion is what ejects it, and it hurts. So if you know it's going to hurt a little bit to do it and to look the coolest, and you don't go, when it happens, instead you're like, no big deal. That's how it works. So that's a lot of life, is nobody really adequately tells you how much it all hurts. It all hurts so much, you think I must be doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it just does. You can pop that bottle. It's gonna put something on your finger.
I heard something the other day, and I told my husband that just this one sort of idea lowered my anxiety and everything in my life. And it was that life isn't supposed to be always good.
Right.
Living life is amassing experiences. And those are good experiences and bad experiences.
Yeah.
But it's all part of life. And it means you're alive. And so fear, what a beautiful thing. Means you're alive. Sadness means you're alive. Happiness means you're alive. All of a sudden, my fear of death, which is quite extensive, got a little bit less. No amount of therapy could help as much as that one little thing of, oh, but that fear of death is completely okay.
Yeah, of course, it's all right.
It's alive. You're alive. you're collecting experiences.
Well, fuck, if you're afraid to die, it's because it would be the end of your experience, or at least the end of this part of this experience. And that is a terrifying proposition because this experience is great.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I don't want to be done.
Yeah, I'm not ready to be done.
I'm not ready to be done.
No. Well, you know what you got to do. It's like you got to keep somebody gave me the analogy, God, I was still in my teens because I'd gotten into working out like around the time I was 14, 15. And I loved the idea of being stronger, being ready, having fortitude, endurance capability. Because when I was on set, I had to do whatever. Who knows what the fuck you wind up doing? You wind up doing weird shit where the fact that you can do a pull-up suddenly is really beneficial.
Yep.
Any version of that. You do all the stunt shit. Just being able to hold yourself on a wire. Being ready. And so some trainer I worked with, he was like, yeah, man, your body is literally your vehicle for your soul. And so you got to keep that vehicle tuned up. You got to get those tires rotated. You got to refill your fluids. You got to clean those wipers, dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great way to think about it. So I won't judge my body as myself, right? It's just this thing. I can shine it up. I can get it tuned up. I can put white walls on it, rims, whatever, however you want to present. But I got to keep it healthy. I got to keep it running or else it'll be a beater and it won't be able to win the big race or even show at the show.
Especially after having children, I find myself working out to keep up with her.
Yo, babies, right?
That is the thing.
Cardio, built-in cardio.
Oh, man. God.
Right? I see all my buddies doing the bench presses, the baby bench press.
Baby bench press.
The baby shoulder shrugs.
It's true.
The what's it called? The kettlebell deadlifts. With the baby.
It's true. All of it. All of it.
Yeah.
I could talk to you forever.
I know, right?
But
because we're actually friends. I like that.
I know.
And we're both, I think, at a great place in our lives where neither one of us are afraid to be open about what we've learned. I'm happy to hear your determinations and discoveries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've always been really receptive. I know I talk a lot. Everybody has called me loquacious.
You probably knew that word when you were 7.
I was into Dennis Miller, and I think I was 13 when he was hosting the news on SNL. And his vocabulary was off the fucking charts. And he would always throw something out I had to look up and then start implementing. Because especially at that age, I thought my eloquence equated to savagery. Like it wound up getting my ass kicked more than anything by people who did not share my passion for language.
For words. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the way that I would end this is just, you've been around for such a long time and you've accomplished so many things. And I know that you are so driven and you do have such a phenomenal mind.
Oh.
I guess, is there anything that you know you have yet to do that you are dying to do?
I don't have like an archetype or a thing. What I usually get the most excited about is like a character or a story. And I don't think I'm anywhere near done doing that. We have a bunch of stuff that we've been developing, both at the studio and I started another company. I started like it's really just the two of us, me and an awesome producer executive and an assistant. But we have a bunch of projects, both old and brand new, that we are advocating to get made. And I'm really excited about all this stuff.
Things that you're creating yourself? Things directing again?
All kinds of, it's a long list, right? So like at SBS, we have 3 shows and a movie actively developing.
Are they all animation?
The movie's kind of a hybrid. It's like live action with stop motion, composite, VFX and stuff like that. One of the shows, I can't pitch it because the strike put everything on a delay, right? So we had stuff ready to go out at the beginning of last year, and everything just got tied up. So now it's been waiting and making sure that everything's clear, and people, a writer that we had him connected can't do it anymore, so we had to find another writer, develop it.
Do you internally create and develop everything, or do you actively seek projects?
It's both.
Yeah? Yeah,
it's both. We try really hard to focus on the stuff because our company is just the four of us.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the four of us. So it's like anything that we're making, one of the four of us has to love enough to do it, to push it full time. The other three are there in support, but we just don't employ that volume of people on things that aren't actively in production. Once something is ready to go, then we staff it up with all of our friends or our experts, anybody that you want to build this thing with, which is still my favorite part. Just getting a bunch of people together to put on a show. Boy, I love that the most.
Isn't that awesome?
It is. You just get you're like, you know what, this show needs this music, this director, this set of actors, this writer. And then you do it. You take it from a thing that didn't exist, and then you put it in front of people. And they get to feel it. That's my favorite
thing. And what's the other company?
Oh, it's me and this executive named Tracy Falco. And we're calling it the Green Room. And it's just that. We're developing live action stuff, feature, TV. We have some hybrid stuff that we're doing with SBS. But it was more focused on live action things that I can act in.
Yeah.
Because I'm not able to, people don't think of SBS as a hub for me in comedy movies.
No, I wouldn't, yeah.
So I'm not getting those kinds of submissions.
Yeah.
And at the same time, because the studio is successful in the stuff that we're making, people presume that I'm either unavailable or disinterested. And so I've had to, like I always have, figure out how to make it work. And how it works is
hustle.
Well, just setting up this extra department, essentially, that's dedicated, can be focused and dedicated on this goal. So I've got a bunch of shit under that banner. So much stuff, right? There is a movie I want to direct, and I'm writing it with a buddy right now. I say a buddy, but he's a really good writer. We just happen to be friends. And it's sort of it's like a live action cross between After Hours and Big Trouble in Little China. Meaning that sort of Sorry to Bother You or I'm a Virgo. There is just a world that exists and this is how it is. And, people have regular concerns about it. None of their concerns are, oh my God, I can't believe this world exists. You know what I mean? And so we just get to tell a story within this environment. It's a very personal story, family story, but is told against the backdrop of kind of a Willy Wonka-like contest that we want to use to articulate some very emotional concepts that aren't that interesting to just talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of fun, this movie.
Well, I'm excited to watch you for the next 50 years.
Yeah, me too, right? We should be so lucky.
We should be so lucky. Yeah.
I'm down for it.
I'm down for it. Care of my meat sack.
Right, this vehicle. The technology is getting so good, we both got access to medicine.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Haven't you already figured out the Resurrection Project? Weren't you? Didn't you? Oh, no, wait, she was an angel, technically.
She was technically an angel.
They never really gave me a definitive answer on that. I said, did Kara just disappear? Or did she just duck down in those tall weeds? What happened?
Well, you got farther than I did. I've never even asked the question.
You didn't watch that episode?
I watched the episode. I never asked what she was.
I made Ron answer me on stage.
Yeah. No, he...
It was Jane, too. Jane Espenson, who I love so much from Buffy. Just world building like nobody's business.
I still don't know who Kareth Race was. One day we'll know.
Right. Well, this is great, Katee. Thanks
great.
For including me in your ongoing exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
For what it's worth, you're doing great.
Thank you.
From an outsider's perspective, you're crushing it.
Oh, bless you. I appreciate you very much. Always.
Namaste in the truest sense.
Yeah. Now let's go play soccer.
Let's do it.
Hey, everyone. That was awesome. Thank you for sticking around. And I hope, like me, there were things about Seth that, even after being friends with him for as many years as I have, there were things that I was not surprised by, because I've always known Seth to be just a genuinely wonderful human being. But just the openness about growing up in this industry, and it really sort of took me aback when we were there talking, because it is interesting to talk to a person who grew up and was a child actor and acknowledges the fact that a lot of people have lost their lives, whether they've lost their lives tragically or they've taken their own lives, who were child actors. And it's like a heartbreaking statistic to me. And I think it's something that when people talk about it, it is just rampant with conspiracy theories. And so I sometimes dismiss a lot of it because I'm like, all right, But the truth of the matter is that there is a lot of exploitation of children in this industry, and not exploitation in the way that you think, but exploitation in the way that when a child under the age of 18 does not have a parental person with them, they can be taken advantage of. And that's not necessarily always sexually. That is taken advantage of financially, taken advantage of, their time, like working longer hours than they should, doing a stunt or something that they would never do, doing, not getting broken for lunch in time, not getting all of these things that are taking advantage of someone who doesn't know better.
Do you think this industry attracts a certain type, like you hear about producers, and we've got various examples with Harvey Weinstein's and stuff. Do you think that industry attracts this kind of person who goes toward being in power over people who are vulnerable? Because the people who are like the child actors and that Seth is talking about are vulnerable people that have these people in positions over them that they can control, and that seems to attract that type of person.
I think the short answer is yes, but I also think that could be used as an example for even adults in this industry. That this industry is very unique in a sense, and there are others similar to it, but I can only speak to my own. It is unique in the sense that you are always the person without the power. You are the person who is being hired by. You are not the person who runs the job. So as an actor, you are beholden to everyone around you for work, because as much as the perception of you could lose you a job, so you always have to be perfect, and you have to be amenable, and you have to be malleable, and you have to be all of these things,
right.
Like all of these things that make a very, very good, easy target.
You're also waiting for, you hear people talk about their big break. You're also kind of always waiting for someone to open a door. So you're making yourself available to those people because you're waiting for that door to open. As much as there's really, really hardworking people in this industry who grind and grind, grinding does not necessarily equal success the way it does in other businesses or industries.
Talent doesn't equal success.
Right. There's a luck component, or a person who comes into your life who has the power, which is...
I mean, I've worked with movie stars who are not the best actors, but for whatever reason, they're movie stars. It's crazy. And so I think that all of that stuff together does set itself up for people being taken advantage of. We saw that with the Me Too movement. We've seen that with, a lot of these exposés about children being sexually abused and taken advantage of. It doesn't surprise me. And I always say this, people, we've talked about this, so many sexual predators or this many sexual predators were found to be working at this amusement park for children. And it's like, yeah, well, no shit, guys. If you're a person, a terrible human being who likes children, wouldn't you try to get a job where children work?
Right.
I mean, you're not going to go get a job at, the I don't even know. I'm trying
to come up with a place where pedophiles don't like to go.
Yes, I'm trying to come up with a place where only adults hang out, Jeff. Yeah. Where are places where people I couldn't even say a strip club.
Jeff, you don't want to riff on this pedophile chat?
I was trying to figure out where children aren't allowed, and I couldn't. I don't know, like a rated R movie on a Wednesday down a school night.
Yeah, they're not going to work at an adult-only resort down in Cancun.
No, not like a nude resort in Miami. Like you're not going to find pedophiles there. I don't think. Or maybe you will. Maybe I don't know.
But like you'd think that knowing that, like it's not just the fact that those industries exist. It's like, well, isn't there a little bit more heightened concern in those specific industries? Like there should be a more oversight, and there is now, but in film, like there used to be, it used to be kind of like, here's my kid, go make them a star, and now it's more supervised.
It is, but I also think that because you're trusting, like I was on a movie set at 17 years old without my parents. They didn't drive me there. I drove myself. And, furthermore, I was on a movie set when I was 14 years old and my mom dropped me off and didn't come in with me. My mom wasn't allowed to go in there. I mean, probably she would have. Actually, I have seen parents on set, but my mom had a full-time job. She dropped me off. I worked all day. She picked me up. I went home. Like the amount of time where you are without supervision is a problem, I think, Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're dealing with parents, if you have a parent who's a stage parent, for lack of a better term, and they're on set with their kid all the time, that's amazing. My parents were not that. My parents were like, they had full-time jobs. Like they couldn't be on set with me. Like that's just completely unrealistic. And so that my parents trusted the fact that there are minors supervision on movie sets. Like there always is. But even that person can't be around 100% of the time. So I don't know. It's just, evil people will find the ability to do evil things everywhere and all the time. Yeah. It's just, that's because that's
Have
their
you
goal.
worked with any kids on projects?
I have. Lots of kids. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've worked with lots of kids.
Can you define what a kid is to you? Because sometimes you call 30-year-olds kids.
I do. I'm talking under 18. I'm talking under 18. Like I worked with like a little 2-year-old girl on Battlestar Galactica. Her parents were there the entire time. And, this is a little girl. And granted, it's not a stunt. She's 2 years old. But like this little girl had to lay on the stairs in a pool of strawberry jelly to look like blood and with her eyes closed and not move. And she did it. But that could have been a stunt. She's got her eyes closed laying on a cement stair, Granted, she's only 2 stairs up, but that's still that's a stunt for a little kid.
I agree. And
she was so sweet and so cute. And but her parents were there every day. And then, flash forward to, Oculus, where I'm strangling children, 14-year-old kids.
So fun.
Only one of those kids' parents was on set every day. The other one's parents were like, hey, he'll be fine. So I don't know. I think that it's just depends on the parent and things like that.
You've actually worked with kids quite a bit. You had a daughter on Another Life. You had a daughter in our Hallmark Christmas movie that you did.
I have worked with a lot of kids. And, most kids have a teacher with them all the time.
Right.
They have to have some sort of supervision on set.
Right.
An adult with them.
Did you see Seth Green on something before you met him? Then were you a fan of him? Because I'm a fan of his from Buffy was the thing, and Without a Paddle in terms of movies.
I need to look at my phone because I knew full well who Seth Green was way before.
Right. Jeff, what was your Seth Green experience?
I think Buffy and then Family Guy and Robot Chicken were really but there's also a thing about him where I've kind of always known about him.
Yeah, he seems like and maybe that's just because he started so young that he just feels omnipresent in the industry.
Yeah, and he showed up in a bunch of movies all the time.
Right. He did. He was also in Austin Powers.
Oh, that's probably where I know him from first.
Yes. Yeah, actually it might be. Maybe me too.
I knew who he was by the time, I saw him in Can't Buy Me Love. But I think the first time I really, really knew who he was probably Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. But he was, that's not true. He was uncredited in that.
Was Buffy before Austin Powers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, he was in the Buffy movie?
He was uncredited though.
Oh, really? Like the original Buffy movie?
Oh. In 1992.
Not playing the same character at all. Yeah.
Sequest, for sure. I probably would have known him from Sequest because I was obsessed with Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah. I watched that show, but I do not remember him in it.
I'm trying to remember like the biggest. So Austin Powers was 1997. That was like a really big one for him. Mm-hmm. But I think like Idle Hands was probably
I forgot he was
when
in
I
that.
really knew about him.
That was 99?
Yeah, and then he did Angel first, and then Buffy came after.
What?
Yeah. One episode
Angel
he played
was first?
Oz. Yeah.
No,
oh no,
he
it wasn't.
did
It wasn't.
No,
he
yeah,
did
he went
one
to
episode of Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because he was part of the original cast for the Buffy TV series.
It was. But in IMDb, it's backwards.
Yeah, it just doesn't have it in the
Weird.
right order.
But no, so I think it was probably Idle Hands was the first time like I like as like a heartthrob was like sort of looked at him and was like, oh, he's cute.
That movie scared the crap out of me. That was good.
Did it?
I've never seen that movie.
No, it's about a hand. This guy's hand becomes possessed by something, and now it has a mind of its own, and it's starting to like murder people. And eventually, he has to cut it off. But then the hand like spiders around and continues to try to murder people.
He was also in It, you guys, the miniseries.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Also a great one.
Yeah, he's
Crazy.
been around for a while.
Been around for a really long time, but I really loved this episode. He's just so welcoming, and I don't know, like just his tone in which like he sort of like keeps the interview at like this nice little, I don't know, it just felt so soothing. Like he could do ASMR.
He had a great voice. Can you paint a little word picture of what it was like when you were recording? Because you told me where you guys were recording and how, and it was made me enjoy the episode even more.
Yeah, so we were sitting in like a playroom movie sort of guest house pool room that had like video games in it, like arcade games, and like movie theaters. And we were just sitting on the floor. And Seth like lit up a joint and like smoked the joint the whole time. And I like walked out of there and I was like, I feel like I got a contact high, but that was a great interview. And it was just it was just wonderful. Like it was, I think even just like sitting on the floor, like at one point he was like laying on his belly and then he was like sort of laying on his arm. Like it was just like, you know,
I think that's something that
everything
comes
I
through
wanted it to be.
That comes through with him is that he's still very like youthful and childlike in a great way.
Did you see his, did I ask you this already, but his water slide, did he have that?
No. So I asked him about it. He said that's at a different house. They're actually in a rental house. They're in the middle of construction on their house. And they've been doing construction for years, as Robin and I know how that goes. Mm-hmm. So no, it wasn't this house.
From what I understand, he has a pretty epic water slide at his house that like goes through the hillside and into his pool. Because he was having somebody this was from another podcast he was on. He was having somebody do work on like a retaining wall on the back like hillside. And he thought, well, while I have people here, I might as well install a crazy water slide into the hillside.
Which makes complete sense. I mean, you know, if you're going to do it, right?
You guys talked at one point about, this is just something I wanted to clarify for people. You talked about ADR. What is ADR? For people who do not.
Digital recording. So what ADR is, and
it's got a, not to cut you up, but it's a controversial what the ADR stands for. I've heard many different things.
Really?
There's also automatic dialogue replacement.
I've heard that one, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never heard that, you guys. Audio
right,
digital
I guess we'll
recording.
believe the person who's actually done it.
I don't know.
Jeff and I are like, no, Katee, pretty sure.
I don't know. I've always just called it ADR, audio digital recording.
Yeah, so for the people who don't know, what actually, looping.
So looping basically as well. So it is, like I said, it's another opportunity to go in and like fix the project. So when you do a movie, they are recording you usually on two pieces of equipment. There is a lav mic, which is on your body, hidden someplace in your costume. And then there's a boom mic, which is sort of like the mic like we're using right now to record. It's a standard mic, but it's on a really long pole. And there's a guy called the boom operator that his goal is to get that microphone as close to your face as possible without being in the shot. Many of shots have been roomed because they see the fucking boom. And so a good boom operator is like super important because that pole, you don't think holding a 20-foot pole above your head is going to get heavy. You wait till you do it for a 5-minute scene and you've got to hold it up.
I've seen
in the exact
some
same
jacked boom operators.
It's crazy.
Shoulders are...
It's crazy. So what happens is no matter what happens, the goal on the day is always when they're editing a movie to use the audio from the day is what they call it. You want to use the audio from the day because it's the most authentic audio. It was the audio that you actually recorded during the scene. It's always usually the best audio. But a lot of the times there's sound over it. There's a noise. There's an airplane. There's someone, you're shuffling your feet, or you're having to, type on a computer. Whatever the reason, they need to re-record that dialogue. You have to match, if your face is on camera while your mouth is moving, you have to match the recording. You have to redo the dialogue and match it perfectly so it dubs in perfectly over your mouth moving. Now, a lot of times you just need to get it the same way you did it on the day. They just want you to do it as close as you can from the day. But other times they say, we're hoping that you could add like a little bit more frustration to this take, or a little bit of anger, or maybe a little bit of sadness, or, change the cadence a little bit, but keep it within like the mouth movement, or sometimes even change the line just slightly, but within the mouth movement. It gives you the opportunity as the actor and as the director and as the writers to redo a performance and either change it subtly or change it drastically. If the camera's on the back of your head, you could say completely new dialogue.
Sometimes they do it if the writer comes in and realizes that a plot point isn't clarified or something. They'll have you add a line to clarify something.
100%. Yeah. So it is such a beautiful tool. And I have always been a champion for ADR. I love it. I think it's such a great opportunity to make sure the performance is exactly what you wanted it to be, especially if you're doing something like an accent or your character speaks with a certain cadence. Like, you can fix things that you didn't get right on the day. And there are a lot of actors that fucking hate it. And it drives me nuts when they don't like it or they're not good at it. And it's like, it's a skill. It's not easy to match. I have had to match sometimes 2 sentences back to back with pauses in there. And you got to match that perfectly. It's not easy.
And again, a picture of that. The one time I've done it, you've got usually a pretty big screen in front of you in a booth. And there's a countdown sound that's like beep, beep, beep. And then you start trying to get that category, that perfectly every time.
Yeah. It's a skill. And a lot of people aren't good at it.
But does that translate to the voiceover stuff you do, like the robot chicken stuff? Because I've seen you in the booth doing bitch pudding. You get really into it. You move your ass around and you do the character basically while you're in the booth. So are you doing it that way for ADR?
Because think about it. Like, I'm not going to go do audio digital recording for Starbucks wearing high heels. That would be insane. Because I wouldn't stand the way Starbucks stands. I wouldn't be grounded like her. Like, you need to get as much into the character as possible while you're doing the ADR, because it helps you if you've got to do movement, or you need to run in place, or you need to do whatever you need to do to make your voice sound the same. You do that. I think that all different avenues of this business and all different mediums of this business help each other out. You just don't realize it at the time until hindsight.
Except for self-taping.
Fuck self-taping.
Do you want to talk about any upcoming events or anything you have?
Yeah. So I will be in Detroit at GalaxyCon Detroit the 17th and 18th of May. That is this weekend, you guys. I believe I am there Friday and Saturday, so please check that out. I'm going to be there with my friend Simon from Mandalorian. He's going to be there as well. And he played, oh my God. Who did he play?
Axe
Woves. Oh my God, you guys. My brain. So we'll both be there. I think they've got duo photo ops. And anyway, come out and say hi. We were in Philadelphia for a surgery for our daughter. And it was so funny because there was a Comic-Con that weekend before, when we left before. And I was seeing posters for all the Mandalorians, like all around town from the Comic-Con. And I was like, well, I'm not here for that.
I think some people came up to us at the museum we were at to ask
you're
if you were here
weekend?
for the weekend. We're like, we wish we were here for that.
Yeah, it would have made things a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, Jeff? I didn't realize the Chris Jericho thing. So
Oh, we're doing comments.
We're looking at comments now.
Yeah, I'm looking at comments. Like, is that okay to move on to comments?
I would love to dive into some comments.
Because, so the Chris Jericho thing, it makes complete sense to me now that people were like, hey, Katee Dum Dum, we were just talking about the fact that he carries his sound equipment around, not that like you remind us of Chris Jericho.
Thanks for the clarification. Dakoto87.
Yeah.
To be fair, I brought it up to begin with, so.
Was it you?
Yeah.
Because,
I brought it up before,
but did you bring it up because I remind you of Chris Jericho?
No, because we had an original comment that said Chris Jericho does the same thing.
Right.
And it made me laugh because I thought that they were just talking about an audio podcast. And it was funny that they picked Chris Jericho as the most random person to pick of who has an audio podcast.
Who has an audio podcast.
But it turns out it's more detailed than that.
It's much more detailed. You know what I need to do? If someone has a contact, Chris Jericho, I need to ask him what backpack he uses for his recording equipment. Because I have yet to find the perfect backpack to fit everything in just right. So I'm on the hunt. If anybody wants to email me at thesackoffshow@gmail.com and tell me about backpacks, that would be great. Speaking of, you guys, continue to send those emails in because we do read them. These are just comments that we're going through. We'll get to the emails in a second.
And we read the emails actually more thoroughly than we do the comments necessarily. So
it's true. Kevin Underhill said that I saw that the interview was 2 hours and I thought, I'll just do 20 to 30 minutes of this. And here I am at the very end. And then that I would definitely watch the Buddy Cop show and Moose Jaws if and when. So many people brought up Moose Jaws, you guys.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, these are all comments about Kevin Smith too, just to clarify.
Oh yeah,
That's
I should have clarified that, guys.
Now we did.
Now we did. But I love, someone was saying that they love how in classic Kevin Smith, it's Kevin interviewing Katee. I think that some people said this like negatively, but I actually think this is a positive thing. It's like, of course it's Kevin interviewing me because that's what he does. Like he's so good at it and it's like a muscle with him. That
I
he
was
just
blown away by how much he was able to like navigate his way through that conversation too, with all the technical stuff we had and just bring it back around.
Well, just the fact that we had to redo the entire first like 15 minutes of the interview twice.
Yeah.
And he managed to do it and make it sound actually kind of authentic.
Yeah.
Was really impressive.
I think that because it legitimately was, he's so such a fan too of Battlestar and you that I think it was authentic.
I want to clarify this thing, Jeff and Robin.
Oh, please tell me we're talking about Star Wars.
We are.
Oh, thank God.
So many people have been like, and what is the Star Wars version of mansplaining? Do we call this like Star Wars splaining?
Oh,
like SW splaining?
Now I feel like you put us on the spot by asking two men to explain it to you.
It's true. You guys, like, I think that people are missing the fact, like, especially the jackass that is like, well, she obviously isn't a fan of Star Wars. F you, buddy. Like, yes, I am a fan of Star Wars. I may not know what color the interior of an X-Wing is, but I am still a fan of Star Wars. And when the king of Star Wars, Dave Filoni, tells you something, you believe it. Like, you can
let's
sit there.
clarify for people so in case they don't know what we're talking about.
So
So we put out a clip from the Ming-Na episode that
Yes.
was basically talking about how you didn't know that it was going to be Luke Skywalker showing up at the season finale of Mandalorian, season 2, right?
Yes.
And Ming-Na did know.
Yes.
And people have been commenting and saying, like, how could you not? We all knew. As soon as you saw the lightsaber, as soon as you saw the gloves, as soon as you saw the X-Wing, all these people commenting about how they knew and how could you not? And they don't understand what it is that what you saw. And it's great that Ming-Na knew. Good for her.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons why you didn't. And to clarify, you and I watched every single episode of the Star Wars movies. We also went and watched the whole Clone Wars prior to and Rebels before you started shooting
For the
Mandalorian.
second time, because I watched it all the first
Yes.
time. I was just watching it all again, and I still didn't know. Because here's the thing. When you are recording a show, number one, Hamill wasn't there. Mark Hamill was not there. It was a stand-in with dots on his face.
Yeah, paint a full picture of what you saw that day for people so they're
So
clear.
I am at work. I am sitting next to this guy who's got dots on his face, and I am very confused. And I say,
Which
what
is
are you doing?
Probably a common thing when you're shooting a Star Wars show.
Yeah. So basically the dots are markers for them to do visual effects. Like his face won't be there. It will be face replaced with, what did I say when I asked him what? He said Plo Koon. So he said Plo Koon. I said, great. I'd already heard Plo Koon from Dave when I said, what is this character? Talk to me about
So
this.
the actor and Dave both told you Plo Koon.
Yes.
You're also seeing an R unit who is not painted like R2-D2.
Everyone
This is an R
thinks
unit that is red, and
it's
Plo Koon
painted
had
red and
a
green.
red.
And everyone
R
is
unit.
like, how did you not know it was R2-D2? Have we not seen other droids that look exactly like R2-D2 that are not just painted different colors and they're a different one? Come on,
100%.
guys. Okay, great. So there's that. Then you also have the fact that yeah, he has a glove on. Do you know how many actors in Star Wars wear gloves, including my character? We all wear gloves, guys. Right. It's a glove show. Number 2. Number 3, the lightsaber is not real. It's special effects.
Right, so you didn't see a lightsaber light up. There was no green lightsaber in the...
Not that I remember, no. And furthermore, that was also the day that my husband and my father were on set for the first time. And I was so excited that they were there. Furthermore,
They let you on set on that day?
I got to be there for that. It was awesome.
They did. And I was so just like paying attention to the details that I was part of, like the scene with Giancarlo Esposito, where he and I are focused on that gun because he shoots my character right after that. So we have to make sure that I was more concerned with how my character doesn't see a gun sitting right next to a prisoner with handcuffs on. So I was more focused on protecting my character on the moment than I was about worrying about who Plo Koon was.
I don't even think you need to make excuses for being distracted, because there's been people who've commented and said things like, how could you not know when Grogu was at the temple and he called to the Jedi? How we used to assume it's him. Katee does not know those things at this point in time. No. You do not get any episodes or any signs, any little bit of information that is not your character's perspective in the story.
Right. I had my pages. So you guys had more information than I did in the moment.
And they're not shooting this show like the week before. It's not like you watched last week's episode.
Or even in order.
A year before and not in order. I mean, it is a thing. And also, everyone is like, Plo Koon died in Order 66. Yeah, you guys, We're know that. But how many other characters in Star Wars have died and they brought him back?
I actually went and looked at that clip of that scene again because I was so infuriated on your behalf.
Thank you, honey.
And if you watch the clip, yes, he goes down in his plane and he crashes. You do not see him physically die. You see him physically die as much as you see Boba Fett fall into the Sarlacc pit and get eaten by a giant worm and then come back to life many
Darth
years.
Maul being cut in half.
Cut in half and then being brought back.
Come on, guys.
Even Darth Vader. We watch him burn to death. I mean, obviously we knew he lives at the end of that movie, but like you've seen characters, Jedi specifically, who have superpowers basically come back to life.
Is a Jedi. So anyway, and someone was like, she seems really angry about this. I wasn't angry about it. I was also just pretending to be upset with Dave. I thought it was hysterical. If I didn't think it was hysterical, I wouldn't have put the clip out. If I thought it made me look like a dumbass, I wouldn't have put the clip out. I thought it was hysterical. Anyway. What do you think, Jeff?
Did you know, Jeff? Need to calm down, Kate.
Which is exactly what every woman wants to hear.
It's a great moment. I remember watching that moment, and it was I think I was not even sure who it was until they showed his face. So
I think even when we were watching, we were like, I think a lot of people had this where they're like, no, they wouldn't do that. Like because there was kind of like an attitude, and I think maybe this is from you or not, but there was an attitude of like, this is a separate show. Like, we're not going to bring in the movie characters necessarily because it was different sort of stuff going on, right? Like, I don't think anyone expected them to bring in a major main character from the movies.
I didn't. I mean, and it's sort of one of those things. And then, I mean, and people were like, it was a lone X-Wing. And I'm like, yeah, guys, there's a lot of X-Wings in the world. Everyone's flying X-Wing. Maybe someone got lost. I don't know. I trusted Dave. Anyway.
But you didn't even see the X-Wing when you were shooting it, right?
No, but I did, just for their credit, I did have the line, an X-Wing.
Oh, right.
But at the same time, it's just an X-Wing. It's not like, hey guys, it's an X-Wing, and on the side of it, it says
and also
Skywalker.
Keep in mind, like, there's no musical cue.
No.
You're not watching the episode where he comes in and you see they focus a camera shot close up on the glove, and then they focus on the lightsaber. Like, there's none of that cueing you to anybody. You just have the line.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, emails. So again, with the emails, you guys, so many positive emails from you all and the new format. And I really appreciate that. The support has been really great. And we read every single one of those emails. So just keep them coming in. And we're trying to figure out like what we call this segment. Like, do we actually call this segment something different? Like, do we call it like mail sack? Which is weird because then people might think it's like a M-A-L-E, like a mail sack. That might be weird. It's kind of cheeky, but it might be weird. Sack mail, kind of cool. Sack time, that might be kind of fun. My dad may enjoy that too much. The sack bag, again, the sack bag might be a little like, hey. So send in those suggestions and let us know what we should call it. And don't have like the jack bag or the I'm just like anticipating all these like high school type emails. Send those in to thesackhoffshow@gmail.com. And I'm excited. We'll let you guys know what we call this section. But so from Steven, Katee, I just wanted to drop a note to thank you for sticking with the podcast, especially with everything going on with your daughter. I'm going to be selfish and make a request. When are you doing an episode with your husband? I think your fans and supporters would love it. Thank you, Steven. First of all, I really appreciate your thoughts on our daughter. The more positive thoughts come in our direction, the better. And my husband's sitting right next to me right now.
I told Jeff when I read that I just picture our rankings in the podcast charts just tanking as that episode is released. We've got many more interesting guests than me on the way.
I don't know. You're pretty interesting.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
Someday, Robin. Someday.
One day when we run out of people.
One day when we're up against a wall.
When we interview every celebrity in Hollywood.
Thank you, Jeff.
You know what else I thought would be a kind of interesting interview is our nanny.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I thought that could be really, because she's just a wonderful person, but she's also nannied for a lot of people. Not that she would like tell who those people are, but she's got horror stories.
She's told us some stories now.
I know.
We'll just do a family episode sometime.
Yeah.
Right? John, love the podcast. Great interview with Kevin Smith. While I respect your choices to work in the USA whenever possible, please tone down the anti-Canada stuff. Some of us love you and your work up here. Wish there was more VST in Longmire. Number one, John, I'm not from Canada. Like, I love that you're like, while I respect your choices to work in the USA whenever possible, like the USA is my home. Like, I would much prefer to work in the United States.
You are pretty hard on Canada sometimes.
Am I?
Well, I think the thing is the evidence of how much you actually like Canada is sitting across from you, so that's okay.
It's true. Did I tell you all that I hear Blame Canada every time I go down the escalators? Like the song from South Park? Blame Canada, blame Canada. Dun, 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 dun. I don't even know the rest of the words, but I do.
Why is that? Is that a memory association of some kind?
You know, it's that weird thing where like Canada is like, I think we said this in the Kevin Smith interview, like Canada is like the redheaded stepchild that wants to be invited to the party that never gets invited. And then Mexico is the after party. Nothing. Well, the escalator was me going down into customs, and I always had horrible experiences with the customs agents in Canada. They always were complete assholes to me. Because at the time, like we were, for Battlestar, we were one of the first shows up there. And then the show I did before that in 1999 was up there. They weren't used to actors crossing the border as much as we did. Like they were constantly like, why the fuck are you coming in and out of our country so much? And it's like, because I work here. What do you mean you work here? I'm an actor. What do you mean? Like it was all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it just didn't, it was so new. Like actors going into Canada at that consistency, you know, was weird. Like we had issues with work permits and like, where's your work permit? It's in my pocket. Well, it's supposed to be stapled in your passport. Okay, well, it's still my work permit. Like, anyway, so I just always had issues.
Should we do John a favor here and just say one thing nice about Canada?
John, I love Canada. Canada has always been my backup plan.
I can't do it, can you? That's a little targeted toward me.
If the shit hits the fan here, Canada has always had my name on it. I love Canada. Have you been to the San Juan Islands? Some of them are in Canada. The good ones are in America. But I'm just kidding, you guys. John, I do love Canada. I love maple syrup. I love hockey. I love my husband. You know, I love all my Canadian friends. You know, you can see the Northern Lights from parts of Canada. And, you know, I think it's great. I like it. Is that good?
Very, very, very convincing.
Then this is from First Thunder Studios. If you could dive into any other big franchise and take over an actor's job, who would it be and why? You guys, I would take over any action movie Angelina Jolie has ever done. I would love to take over. Oh my God, my brain is again.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh my God,
Tomb Raider.
Interesting. Interesting
all
first choice, Jeff.
Gone in 60 Seconds was great. I loved that with Nick Cage. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, anything she's ever done. I fell in love with Angelina Jolie during Hackers, which was shot in Portland, Oregon. And I became just a huge fan of hers. She's absolutely just gorgeous, and she's a phenomenal person. I think I've never met her. And so I would love to take over her stuff. Yeah. Chris, I've always loved when you get into ADHD as a mental health professional. It's always good to see people like yourself normalizing it and being vulnerable and just being awesome. Thanks. It's still a source of shame for so many people, especially those who've experienced so much shame all their lives. So I hope to see more of this in the future in some form or other. ADHD to me is such an interesting thing. Thanks, Chris, by the way. And we need more good mental health professionals. So I appreciate you and all you do. ADHD was so weird for me because the moment I was diagnosed, I feel like everything made sense. And I raced home, or I raced, my therapist is over Zoom, and I raced out of the room and I told my husband, and I was like, "You're never going to believe this." And what was your reaction, babe?
I think, yeah, that makes sense.
So there you go. It's so weird to me because I even had this weird association with it where, ADHD to me were all the kids I went to school with that got in trouble that like couldn't pay attention. Like I was like, what do you mean I have ADHD? Like my brother has ADHD. I don't have ADD. And like they're all sort of the same thing, come to find out. And like, so yeah, it was really strange for me. But the amount of people diagnosed as adults is such an interesting thing. And I've run into so many recently. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you have ADHD, Jeff?
Yeah, I do actually.
Do you?
I was diagnosed as a kid, yeah.
Were you really? Mm-hmm. What was that like? Did you experience a shame associated with it your whole life?
No, I don't think. I think I was too ADHD to have shame about
it. as any good ADHD kid. What have you taken medication for it? Like what's the...
Yeah, off and on a little bit.
Yeah?
I mean, my mom was always very anti-medication growing up. Mm-hmm. We went to a lot of like alternative medication places, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I got properly medicated for it.
She anti-vax? I'm just kidding.
She's not. She's not now.
It's okay. Robin's mom had a very similar...
Very much the same, yeah. Like, they're not anti-vaxxers anymore, that's for sure. But I grew up in a very natural household where Tylenol and stuff was even not, like, readily available for headaches and stuff. We just, teas and all the natural remedies you could find. Jeff, when you were a kid, were you like, were you diagnosed because you were like bouncing off the walls? Were you like physically crazy?
I just like couldn't pay attention in school. Couldn't do my homework. Was, all that kind of stuff. Couldn't focus on anything. Yeah.
That's my brother.
Classic signs. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother was like that. Whereas a person like myself was the opposite. Even though I couldn't focus on my homework and I couldn't pay attention, I got good grades. And what I did was I just procrastinated, and then I was able to put my ADHD to work. So my ADHD works really well when I'm up against a wall and I have to do something. Then I'm able to focus. And so I think I actually just came up with coping mechanisms to actually work within the confines of the ADHD without being diagnosed because I was always good in school.
And you found a career that requires very intense moments of focus followed by nothing and everything like that. So you can use that superpower a little bit.
Yeah. You guys, this has been great. That was Seth Green episode, the Hindsight episode for Kevin Smith, and your emails. So keep sending them in. Again, the Sackhoff Show @gmail.com, and follow us everywhere you get your podcasts, and we will see you next week. Bye.